My name is Matthias Jurek, Program Manager for Mountain Ecosystems with the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, the voice of the environment in the UN system. Mountains can be found on all continents. They cover a fourth of the planet's surface and are home to 15% of the world's population. Their ecosystems and community are as diverse as life on this planet. Mountains host mighty glaciers, steep rock faces, dense forests, and wild rivers. What is common to all these different mountain regions across the world is that they are particularly effective by and vulnerable to climate change. The latest IPCC special report on oceans and cryosphere in a changing climate has shown that, example giving, snow depth in high mountains is expected to decrease by 10 to 40% only until 2015. Temperatures in high altitude have risen potentially more than double than the global average. And virtually all mountain glaciers will drastically diminish over the course of this century. In the United States Glacier National Park, for instance, only about 30 glaciers remain out of originally 150 in 1850. The Austrian Alpine glaciers have lost 80% of the surface since mid-19th century. The tropical glaciers in the Andes and East Africa will most likely disappear completely within the century. The loss of the world glaciers is example documented in the forthcoming documentary, The Last Glaciers, of UNEP's mountain advocate Malcolm Wood. The film captures the fragility of mountain environments and is a cold wake-up call that distills dense science to a visual journey of the facts. The impact of climate change on the world's mountains come with many challenges and risks for mountain communities and visitors. In the Andes, for instance, reduced glacier runoff affects water availability for drinking and agriculture. In the Bolivian city of La Paz, for instance, more than 65% of water comes from surrounding glaciers. In the Caucasus, sustainable mountain tourism models needs to be developed because of more unpredictable season as well as higher risk of mountain ecosystem degradation. The Hindu Kush Himalayan region is affected by a higher risk of natural disasters, tragically showcased by the glacier collapse and flash flood in Uttarakhand earlier this year. In East Africa, people need to prepare for altered weather patterns and increased human-wildlife conflict. In search for food, elephants in Kenya, for instance, intrude more fields, leading to community resentments. We face three imperatives in generally addressing the climate crisis. First, we need to achieve global carbon neutrality within the next 3 decades. Second, we have to align global finance behind the Paris Agreement, the world's blueprint for climate action. And third, we must deliver a breakthrough on adaptation to protect the world, and especially the most vulnerable people and countries from climate impacts. UNEP closely works with partners to address those climate-related challenges and vulnerabilities in mountain areas around the world. Over the last years, UNEP published with partners the Mountain Adaptation Outlook series for the tropical Andes, the Balkans, Caucasians, Central Asia, East Africa, and South Caucasus. They took stock of climate risk as well as policies and approaches in some sectors such as agriculture, water, biodiversity, tourism, and health. The Adaptation to Altitude program, funded by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, builds on these previous engagements and seeks to increase the resilience and adaptive capacity of mountain communities and ecosystems to climate change. Regional activities are implemented by CONDESAN in the Andes, ECMOD in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, and UNEP in South Caucasus and East Africa, as well as the interregional level. In East Africa, for instance, we collect concrete adaptation solutions, such as education program at Mount Kenya, income diversification for mountain communities in Tanzania, and resilient agroforestry in Burundi. These innovative approaches will be shared with regional stakeholders of the East African community to scale up ambition and action for mountain communities. The collected solutions are further uploaded into a public online database, hopefully leading to scaled action, transferred knowledge, and more resilience of mountain communities. The Vanishing Treasures program, funded by the government of Luxembourg, aims to better understand the impacts of climate change on snow leopards, the Royal Bengal tiger, and mountain gorillas, in order to improve the protection of these species while supporting local mountain communities who live alongside them. In the Central Asian mountains, for instance, impacts of climate change include changes in plant phenology, the shift of the tree line, and increased risk for natural disasters. This may change livestock herding patterns and pasture management. Such changes increase competition for resources. Potentially, livestock attacks by snow leopards could increase due to decreased wild prey availability or livestock moving into snow leopard habitat. This in turn could have an impact on livelihoods and result in increased ritual killings of snow leopards. In order to mitigate this human-wildlife conflict, it is beneficial to create synergies between ecosystem-based adaptation approaches and community-based climate-smart wildlife management approaches. Potential activities under Vanishing Treasures include improving the infrastructure of corals to protect livestock from snow leopard attacks, finding solutions to improve grazing management to avoid competition in time and space with wild grazers and livestock insurance to compensate for losses from depredation. Vaccination programs or national disasters insurance programs could be promoted to reduce impacts of livestock loss due to climate risks. The involvement of local communities is vital to these activities. What has become clear is that mountain areas are especially effective and vulnerable to climate change, and the next decades are crucial for both mitigation and adaptation. UNEP's annual emission gap report tells us that pledges and actions on the Paris Agreement must get a lot stronger in build-up to the forthcoming COP26 in Glasgow. Last year's edition of the report found that the world is currently on track by warm over 3 degrees by the end of the century compared to pre-industrial times. Yet, a global green recovery could reduce 2030 emissions by 25% from pre-COVID-19 predictions. This can be based on support for zero-emission technologies and infrastructure, reducing fossil fuel subsidies, no new coal power plants, and nature-based solutions. With regards to adaptation to climate change, global efforts remain too little and too slow. Financing remains at around 5% of total climate finance, coming at about $30 billion each year on average for 2017 and 18. We have to see more money pledged before and at the forthcoming COP26 in Glasgow. We're looking forward to further continuing to engage with stakeholders such as government representatives, regional cooperation structures, and science in order to join forces to implement concrete actions for resilient and healthy mountains. We can only rise to the challenges of the climate crisis by working together.